Hello YouTube, today at powerjackrepair.org we got an Acer Predator. The model is N22q8 or pt314. The client states that he has to wiggle the plug like that, wiggle the plug inside the jack, and to make the connection work. So we're gonna take it apart, replace the connector. The connector looks something like that. Let me show you. And usually what happens to this connector, this is a foolproof connector in my opinion. Just the inside barrel, the springs get sprung out a lot, and that's the issue with the connection. Also to keep in mind, you see how badly the cord wiggled here. So maybe it has to do something with the tip of the cord, or there are two springs inside of the plug. They might get pushed towards the back, and that's the reason it doesn't reach all the way onto this pin. So when you plug it in, oh no, this is extremely solid here. Hold on. This is like that solid. Let me see here. Well, this one also kind of solid, but I know that there's a lot of power interruption, so probably the ground isn't doing much. Here is pretty solid, yeah. All right, so let's take it apart. I already unscrewed the screws on the bottom. I probably already disconnected the battery. Let me take a look. All right. If the battery is disconnected, yep. And let's see if the battery is removable. The battery is removable. Let me find my favorite tool. All right, so found my favorite tool. We're gonna unplug this guy. Yeah, like that. I don't know about CMOS battery. If it has the code stored on CMOS for the bit locker, it's gonna get reset. So I sometimes try not to disconnect the power for the battery because the bit locker might get reset, and I'm not sure if the system has a bit locker or not. So let's not disconnect that. Oh wow. So if it wouldn't die from the wiggling, it would probably die from overheating. So let me clean up. All right, fan is nice and clean now. Let's do this one as well. I'm sure it's... You see what happens is they put extremely thin heat sinks, and the fans are also coming to be extremely thin, and the dust gets settles there, and you have to buy a new laptop pretty much every year because well, in a year or two, because the GPU or CPU will overheat because the air isn't moving through the fans. So here, like if you wouldn't change a filter in your house, the whole house filter, your furnace is gonna die. All right, so let's see. Right, so here we had some, oh no, that's the intake, so, and that's the outtake right there and right there. All right, clean that up. All right, so the intake is actually from the bottom, from like here, from the bottom. So it's, if you put it on lap or if you use it in bed, it's gonna die. This one should be used exclusively in on the table scenario. Don't use it anywhere else except the table. Except on the table, that is. All right. Let's see. Extremely strange configuration. I'm not sure if I have any screws left anywhere here. Let's try and get this guy off of here. All right. We do see some miscoloration here on the positive rear pin, probably due to constant power interruptions. All right, so here one thing to keep in mind is this hinge. You don't want it to melt, you don't want to damage it in any way, shape or form, so you have to insulate it right away. Otherwise, you will melt it down while desoldering this connector. Another thing is probably not going to be possible to desolder the connector while the heatsink is in place, because this heatsink will draw all of the heat onto itself from the motherboard, from the CPU, from the GPU. And once it draws all the heat out from the board, the solder not going to be able to melt here. So I might need to remove the heatsink. I prefer not to. I prefer to work on it the way it is. But in case it's not going to budge, if the connector, you see how strongly connected the whole connector to the motherboard. This connector is proprietary to this particular laptop. Nobody else uses this kind of connector, and I'm not happy about the connector to begin with, but at least it sits on the motherboard, all right? So quite well, and it's kind of a pain to desolder it. So let me show you how to desolder this connector from the motherboard. I did have to disconnect the CMOS battery because I had to use the insulation that's conductive, so I didn't want any voltage current to be left inside the laptop so that nothing would get shorted. Here we're gonna tape this guy. This is a Kapton tape, so it's supposed to hold everything fine together. And now the goal is to desolder it, which is not easy. This is not the easiest connector to desolder. You do need the hot air in order to desolder it without breaking the traces. Try not to break the traces, so don't try to drill anything through. I do get a lot of boards here where people try to drill something just to get the connector out. The heat itself is supposed to get the connector out, nothing else. If you're going to be pushing, pressing, filing, drilling through the board, please don't do so, because it's not going to be fixable afterwards, all right? Heat is all you need. So let me show you. Alrighty. So what we do here is we add some flux to the top of the board. The flux should keep the solder more, prevent the solder from solidifying faster. It prolongs the time it takes to solidify the solder. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some hot air to warm up the board. All right, so once the board warms up, you see the solder penetrating into the traces. Into the solder points. And what it does, it mixes the silver base solder with the lead base solder. That way it should be much easier to, it should require less heat to remove this connector from the motherboard. So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna flip it over. All right. And what we're gonna do here, we're also gonna add some solder to the top side. All right, so we're adding some solder to the top side. Good job. It doesn't penetrate the board as well because we didn't use flux on this side. You do need to use the flux. I hope the flux inside of the solder will help me a bit. All right. All right, looks good. Looks excellent. Alrighty. All right, now we increase the heat. We massage the new solder into each point and hope for this guy to come out. I can sense the heatsink to warm up quite significantly because the board warms up and everything goes into the heatsink. So not only you warming up the board, you also warming up the heatsinks. All right. All right. Now, if the heatsink would be removed, it would probably be easier to desolder it. All right, let's do it. Okay, like that. All right, good job. Now we're gonna reduce the heat, and what we're gonna do next is we're gonna desolder the old solder from the holes. All right, from the traces. All right. All right, and nothing working here. All right, here. What I need to do, I need to get some support underneath it. All right. Alrighty. Need to bring the source of air closer. And now what I want to do is see if I can get the solder off of there. Right, it's coming out little by little. Alrighty, let's inspect under the microscope and see if alrighty. Beautiful. Yeah, so every single hole is nice and empty. You can see through it. Alright. Good job. Alright, so now I remove the insulation. I add some flux to the top. That way the new connector, by the way, let's compare the old connector with the new connector. Let's take a look. Let's take a look what's the problem. Doesn't look bad at all. Alright, so the top one is the new connector. Alright, let's rotate this guy as well to be perfectly symmetrical. Alright, so what do we see? Alright, so the only difference I can see here is the spring. Hold on. Right there, this is the one I need to focus on. That spring right here doesn't spring. Oh yeah, this is much harder here. Yeah, this one is like, it's here. Yeah, so this spring works much better than this spring. And that spring probably pushes everything so that the two pins will grab onto the new connector here. Oh, by the way, it seems like the pin itself kind of worn, don't you think? Like, you see how smaller it is here than here? Maybe just visual effects. No! Oh, you know what, here. This is the oxidation right here, you see? This guy is nice and shiny, and this guy is all oxidized. Here, all around the pin, it's oxidized. Like, all around the pin. So this oxidation here... Oh, I see. Now, let's inspect this guy separately. I want to make sure that it's the oxidation on the pins. Now, it seems like the inside is worn. The inside of the pin is like... yeah, you see how nice... Yeah. Alright, so let's hope that once we put the new connector in, the client not gonna have a problem anymore. So again, we put some flux. This is a brand new connector. We're gonna install the brand new connector like that. I want to make sure it sits all the way in. Alright, so all the way in. Let me hold something. Let me hold it with something here. Alright, let's put some solder. Alright, so we're putting solder on the top side of the connector while pushing the whole thing downwards. Alright. What I wanna do is, let's use the... Alright, so once these guys are nicely holding everything together, We can flip the whole thing over. Support the connector onto those silicone pads. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna add some plugs here. All right. Alrighty. All right. The flux lets the solder penetrate all the way through. All right, and now we're just gonna add some flux here. I mean the solder here. Okay, for me the most important pin is the rear center. And I can see solder coming through from the, here, let me show you on the microscope. You see how the solder penetrated all the way through that pin? Now I still need to add some solder to the rear left and right support pins. But here what I want to do is I also want to do the flux on the top side and just put some, make sure that the soldering connection is nice and strong. All right, you see how everything started to reflow? All right, good job. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not happy how it's not trying to, because this is all ground here, and it's kind of hard to penetrate the ground, to warm up the ground so that the trace would get some solder on it. All right, you know what? Let me get more flux. Let me get more flux here. More flux right there. All right. Let's do more. All right. Oh wow, look, here is not much solder either. Good job. All right, this is relatively okay. You see it's not soldered through on the inside, but there is, I mean, I can shove this guy all the way in there anyway. So here. All right, so when you do something like that, make sure not to damage any of the nearby components like this guy. All right. And what we can do next is we can put some more heat here on the rear support pins, and that way it might melt on the top side as well, but it doesn't because again it's all ground here. Anyways, the problem not gonna be with the support. The problem, if it's ever gonna happen, gonna be with the pin, the plug. All right, so I am trying to clean up the whole thing. Let's clean up the whole thing. I honestly would add some hot air, but you see those two tiny pieces right there? I don't want them to fly off the motherboard. I would add the hot air to this particular rear pin, the one that didn't get soldered all the way through. I mean, the pad isn't filled all the way, but if I add the hot air there, I risk the chance of frying things up. So here. All right, okay. Good job on this side. And just the key is to know when to stop. All right. Good job. Good job. This is a lint-free cloth. It's which supposed to absorb all the chemicals. Let's see. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so we got some hair left from the brush. Let me get the hair out of here. All right. All right. Strange, the cloth should be lint-free. Maybe it's not the cloth. Strange. All right, so I will let it dry and then proceed to reassembling the whole thing. Now, if you decide to send this port to us, make sure to give us a call, because not to call but to text, because we don't stock this guy. It's really expensive connector, like 27 bucks or so. So I need to pre-order it, all right? Alrighty. What I want to do first is I want to test to make sure there is no shortage of any sort between the positive pin and the negative. And there is no shortage anywhere. Let's put this guy into the casing. Alright, how do we put it in? Like that. This one should be on the bottom. I assume and this should be on the bottom. And we should guide this guy first, probably. Like that. We got one piece right there on the top. We got this piece, that piece, like that. Right here we have this cable, that cable, this cable. Right, see, perfectly fine. Fine, yeah. Now we want to connect this cable. Alright, let's connect this guy. Let's connect this cable here. Let's connect this cable. That one. And that one. This guy. And this guy. Alright, so here that. And now we need to put one fan in here like that. Connect the cable here. Alright. Now let's connect the cable right there. Let's connect this cable here as well. Okay. Here we have Alright, so the most important part of this operation is not to mess up this hinge here, because it's extremely fragile piece. Fragile is the keyword I was looking for. That you don't want to mess up. Alright. Alright. Okay, looks good. Looks good. And this piece here looks good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some tape on top of it, just like it was before. Like that. All right. Like that. Good job. Good job. Now this is gonna be the screw from the top cover. Those two are gonna be from the top cover. This is top cover. And I'm not sure. All right, so this is not a top cover. So we're gonna do something like that. Wait up. Not too big, seems like too big. No, that's right. 4-5 is the longer screw. It says the markings there 4-5, 45. And the shorter screw are gonna be 2-5. The 2.5 screw is gonna go here. Another 2.5 screw gonna go right there. Another 2.5 screw gonna go right here. Another 2.5 screw gonna go right here. Good job. All right, and there is no screws holding the battery, seems like. So what I want to do first is I want to connect the battery because I got room here to connect the battery. All right, use some tape on top of it. Like that, like that, like that. Good job. I did not touch the heatsink, so I don't need to screw it, unscrew it. We have the top cover for the Predator. And then we just gonna close it down. All right. Now let's bring the screws from the bottom cover here. Oh, that's the reason it was unscrewed before, right? Those are the Torx screws. And this Torx is not for this Torx. Why is it? Let's put it. Yeah, seems like this bit is not from this Opera, but I'm gonna get to it in a second. Right, it seems like we have one screw missing. Okay. It doesn't say which Torx this is, but it's the same one for probably iPhones and iPads. All right. Yeah, screws. One screw is missing. Let me find a new screw for it. All right, so I did find the screw for here from one of my multiple. All right, so let's see the condition of the power supply. Let's see if the power supplies had something to do with everything. Let's try and plug it in. You know what, first you want to make sure that the holes align. Hole of the jack and the hole of the plug should be perfectly straight. So we're gonna plug it in. All right, so nice and tight connection there. Here we have the battery light charging. All right, press the power button. We get something here. Let's see if you're gonna get something on the screen, like some sort of dragon picture of a dragon. Or we're not getting anything on the screen yet. This is, by the way, one of the best screens in the industry. It's a matte finish, so it doesn't reflect as much light as many glared ones. The reason you can see me here because I have a whole bunch of lights here shining onto the screen. But yeah, really good laptop it seems like. It just why would you use so much amperage for a small laptop like that? The brick itself weighs a lot, so it's not exactly, I would say, a portable device. All right, so we get a whole bunch of light flashes, but nothing happening on the screen yet. But it's too soon to say anything because maybe because the CMOS battery got disconnected, we have the trouble here booting up for now. All right, so wow. All right, so we got the Predator on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, and you guys take care and have a good day. Thank you. Bye. I'm gonna test to make sure the keyboard works, the touchpad works, and everything else. I don't want to see the client, show the client information if it's gonna come up.